My name is Krista Crisco, and this is my cultural artifact speech. I have my mom recording.
Hello.
And I have my friend Ari here in the audience. And here I go. Do you know what Southerners love most other than a home-cooked meal? What do you think pairs well with that? The most loved alcohol in the South and also in my home, bourbon. Bourbon is one of the most popular and well-known drinks in Southern culture, as well as in my household, obviously, and in my family in general. Learning about the significance of bourbon will give you a deeper understanding of the Southern culture. First, I will explain the significance of bourbon and how it represents Southern culture, and second, I will explain how I identify with the culture. Bourbon has been heavily associated throughout time in both Southern culture and popular culture all across the US since it had first came about. To this day, it is still the main drink of choice for people who have either originated in the South or still reside to the South to this day. Bourbon has always been a staple in Southern households and those of Southern descent. As time has progressed, different drinks have been made with bourbon involving sweet tea, lemonade, and other non-alcoholic drinks of choice in the South. The sweetness of bourbon as well makes it really easy to drink, and also all the mixtures and drinks that have been made with bourbon has resulted in bourbon becoming extremely popular to the South and to Southerners, as well as across the US. In the South as well, it is known that bourbon in general is the drink that leads to warm, appreciative conversations with the people that you love the most. Numerous people and myself have asked why bourbon is such a staple in the Southern culture. There has been a heavy debate about the origin of bourbon and where it had come from. I apologize, my dogs are barking up there. Some debate that it has either had originated in Bourbon County in Kentucky or in Louisiana in New Orleans on Bourbon Street. Though this is still up for debate, it doesn't take away the fact that the bourbon has spread across southern states like wildfire, and no matter where you were in the South, there was always a bottle of bourbon in your home. Popular culture has also related bourbon drinking with the South by portraying like a man in overalls with a wheat stalk in his mouth, a banjo, and a bottle of bourbon next to him. Now that I've talked about the significance of bourbon in Southern culture, I will explain how I myself identify with the culture. Even though I was born and live in California, a lot of my family comes from the southern states of the US. Unfortunately, I was able to interact with those family members before they had passed away. And I got a little bit of insight on how the South was and how Southern culture was. Most notably, my grandfather, he would always tell me what the South was like while growing up. So much so that in October, actually, I got the chance to visit the South and was consuming bourbon the whole time I was there. Though I don't have any typical traditions in my family involving bourbon, what we do when a family member passes away, specifically on my southern side, is that we will take shots of bourbon in respect to them because we know that that was their drink of choice and probably what they wanted. Also at holiday parties and family gatherings, we'll usually whip out a bottle of bourbon and sip on it while enjoying the company of my family and hanging out and stuff like that. Unfortunately, my grandpa passed away, but before then every time I would see him, he lived in Arizona, we'd stay up and spend time together and sip on some alcohol and getting to talk about life, and his drink of choice was obviously bourbon because he was from South Carolina. And he said things for how they were. Now, how do I use bourbon? I obviously use bourbon to get drunk and have a good time. I apologize again. I know that my ancestors are looking down on me and smiling, knowing that their drink of choice is mine as well. Their drink of choice when they were here on earth is mine as well. I don't condone underage drinking or drinking irresponsibly, but it was definitely a good time when I was in Tennessee and singing Chris Stapleton's Tennessee Whiskey and after 3 bourbon old fashions. Me and my family also use bourbon for cooking dishes like brisket, pecan pie, and chili on Thanksgiving and holiday gatherings. So today you learned about the importance of bourbon and what it represents in the Southern culture. First, I told you the significance of bourbon and what it represents in the Southern culture, and second, I explained how I identify with the culture. Although I was born here in California, my family's background in the South and Southern culture will always remain in my heart and with me in the form of bourbon and the bond that I had with my grandpa. We were very close. The way that my grandpa had spoken about the South is what inspired me to go visit Tennessee and experience what the Southern culture was like myself. To this day too, my family and I obviously have a lot of bourbon here, so we're always paying respects to my grandpa. We even have his favorite bourbon here. So yeah, and I'll always be respectful of the Southern culture, and I will also continue to drink bourbon somewhat irresponsibly. Thank you.